It is a game among people who love words to come up with appropriate terms of groups of animals, such as a gaggle of geese, a pride of lions, and a knot of toads. To this list I propose a new addition, a glory of unicorns. Of course, one unicorn is glorious in and of itself, but when you have several of them together, that is something else indeed. It is a thought to lift the heart and make it sing, a glory. Bruce Colville.
From Whence We Came. Few scenes are so pleasing to the eye as a grassy field dotted with shining white equine figures, grazing or dozing lazily in the afternoon sun. However, such a serene atmosphere could never last for very long in a place filled with rambunctious foals, unicorns or not. One of them, just waking from his nap and ready for some form of stimulation, kicked his sleeping brother and sister to see if they might want to play. He was the oldest of triplets, and took it in his stride that it was his job to instigate activities.
Come on, Vilera, let's go find Songspell and play a game.
His sister yawned and declined his offer.
I was having a nice dream. Maybe later.
She leaned back against their constantly snoozing younger brother, and seemed to immediately return to sleep. Disgusted, he snorted and trotted off to look for his cousin, when he spied the older unicorn who spent much of his time in the pasture for the weaned foals. The stallion was the third oldest in the glory, and enjoyed the vibrant innocence of the new generations. He seemed to think it his duty to pass on as many stories as he could to help prepare the youngsters for the trials they would face later in life. The colt, eager now to hear one of the entrancing tales, cantered over to the sleeping elder.
Hey, Soulsearcher, are you awake?
The older unicorn flicked an ear towards the inquisitive youngster that had disturbed his slumber.
Is it story time yet?
Soulsearcher didn't answer for a moment as he righted himself so he could look at the little unicorn.
And what were you hoping to hear about today?
Gilver pondered this for a moment, tilting his head to the side so that his delicate profile became silhouetted against the sky, his small golden horn seeming to absorb the rays of the sun and then amplify them. Finally, he appeared to think of something.
Is there a story about where we came from? I mean, I know we didn't always live here on the ICT.
Soul's topaz eyes sparkled.
There is indeed. In fact, it's been a while since I've gotten to tell that one, so we'd better call the others over here.
Soul paused.
I don't suppose you'd want to do it, would you?
Gilver puffed himself up, overjoyed with the responsibility.
I'll tell him.
He turned and sprinted down the field, whinnying as he ran. Moments later, he appeared in front of Soul with his siblings and a second cousin in tow, not to mention every weanling to 3-year-old on the planet, plus a few that were even older. Soul's storytelling ability was legendary, and even those well into the triple digits would often stop by to listen. Once everyone had settled in, Soul lit up his alicorn briefly to get everyone's attention.
All right. Today's story is a bit more in-depth than most of my tales, and indeed it is so old that some details have faded into mythical vagueness. But it is a very important story nonetheless. I have been asked to relate the history of how we came to live on this planet, the ICT. In short form, we faced extinction, and a powerful mage brought us here to this sanctuary. The longer version is a little different.
He shook his mane and settled into his storytelling relaxedness.
It all happened many years ago. More than even unicorns like to think about. The unicorns then were a much smaller glory, and they lived peacefully in the forests and plains of the planet Elicum. Some things were similar, being hunted for their alicorns, helping the humans when they could, and being able to take on a humanoid form. Their magic was similar, primarily defensive, focusing on shielding and camouflage. The differences were that they didn't have the ability to teleport, nor did they have the magical means of sharing memories as we do now, or the enchanted healing. All of these treasures were gifts the mage gave to us.
One of the older foals snorted loudly. A headstrong filly named Windchaser, who had been amongst the first few to arrive right after Gilver and his siblings.
Is this story going to tell us more about the mage, too?
Soulsearcher shook his head.
I'm afraid, my dear Che, that we know very little about the creator of this sanctuary, only that his name was Idacel. But I'm afraid that even though he gave us this new land and great gifts, he plays a very little part in this story and our lives here. I do not even know if he was mortal or if he still lives somewhere on the planet today. Even unicorns need not know everything.
He winked at the youngsters, enjoying their murmurs of intrigue to one another. Che responded with another snort.
I still wish we could learn more about him.
Sol bobbed his head in sagely understanding.
It can be difficult to accept that there aren't always answers to our questions, or at least to accept that they aren't always within our reach. But that is a discussion for a different time. Let us continue with our original tale. I have been asked to relate the history of how we came to live on this planet, the ICT. ICT? I'd like some ICT. Get it? It's like a pun.